Employers are facing more disruption today than ever before. Economic volatility, AI transformation, hybrid workforce challenges, everything's changing all at once. The strategies that used to last 5 years now expire in 3 months. Some organisations are paralysed by this chaos, while others are thriving by completely rethinking how they approach talent and workforce planning. So, what separates the leaders from the laggards, and what should your organisation be doing right now? Keep listening to find out. Support for this podcast comes from Smart Recruiters. Are you looking to supercharge your hiring? Meet Winston, Smart Recruiters' AI-powered companion. I've had a demo of Winston. The capabilities are extremely powerful, and it's been crafted to elevate hiring to a whole new level. This AI sidekick goes beyond the usual assistant, handling all the time-consuming admin work so you can focus on connecting with top talent and making better hiring decisions. From screening candidates to scheduling interviews, Winston manages it all with AI precision, keeping the hiring process fast, smart, and effective. Head over to smartrecruiters.com and see how Winston can deliver superhuman results.
There's been more of scientific discovery, more of technical advancement and material progress in your lifetime and mine than in all the ages of history.
Hi there, welcome to episode 719 of Recruiting Future with me, Matt Alder. Recruiting Future is a podcast that helps talent acquisition teams drive measurable impact by developing their strategic capability in foresight, influence, talent, and technology. This episode is about foresight. The pace of change has become relentless. Economic volatility, AI adoption, and geopolitical shifts are forcing companies to completely rethink their workforce strategies. Organisations that once planned in 5-year cycles are now refreshing their approaches quarterly or even monthly. This unprecedented disruption demands immediate action. But many HR and talent teams remain paralysed by uncertainty. Traditional recruiting and development approaches simply can't keep pace with how rapidly skills requirements are evolving. So, what concrete steps should companies take today to build resilience into their talent strategies? My guest this week is Peter Miskovich, Global Future of Work Leader at JLL. Peter has spent 25 years helping Fortune 100 companies navigate workforce transformation, and he's never been busier than right now. In our conversation, Peter shares practical insights on building adaptive talent strategies, why continuous learning has become non-negotiable, and the specific skills companies must prioritise immediately to remain competitive through constant change. Hi, Peter, and welcome to the podcast.
Good to be with you today, Matt.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Please, could you introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do?
Yes, certainly. Peter Miskovich. I'm with JLL. We're a global real estate advisory investment firm, $23 billion firm, and I lead our global future of work transformation advisory practice. And I focus on enterprise organization, operating models, talent workforce strategies, AI enablement, and workplace transformation. I've helped to transform 1.5 billion square feet of corporate real estate, including 50 Fortune 100 headquarters. I work with C-suite teams across multiple industry sectors. I serve on a couple boards, the Accenture Technology Vision Board, the Ceres Sustainability Board, and the World Economic Forum. And I'm also affiliated with a number of universities, and I've been at this, Matt, for over 25 years, developing comprehensive workforce and workplace transformation solutions for clients.
Fantastic stuff. You're really looking forward to this conversation. So let's kind of dive straight into it. So when you're working with clients to develop the sort of these future of work, future focused strategies, what are the things that they're most concerned about? We're in very uncertain times at the moment. Are there sort of particular issues that come up? And how do you sort of build strategies that can adapt to changing scenarios?
Yes, Matt. Well, it's an excellent question. And I'll just share with you in my 25 years, I don't think I've been busier than we are today. The challenges are increasingly more complex, and we're working with a number of global clients on their 2030 strategies. And I'll just share with you some highlights in terms of the challenges we're seeing. The first and foremost is the integration of AI and workforce transformation and where that's going to support new and evolving business models. The hybrid work evolution post-pandemic. I was an early pioneer and luminary in hybrid work. The hybrid work challenges are everywhere, and clients need support to navigate all of that. The talent marketplace dynamics are changing dramatically. Regulatory complexity at a global and country level is changing. I would add that economic volatility and uncertainty, especially in the last 6 months in the US and global, certainly has contributed to the challenges. And then geopolitical risks, climate change risks, global aging, demographic shifts. And then I'll just highlight, Matt, sort of the challenges of personal resilience and the age of anxiety is upon us, given all of what I just described. And so client organizations are requiring a great deal of navigation support and counseling to help navigate, everything we just described.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely sort of crazy in terms of what's going on at the moment. Just in terms of, just to dig in a little bit about how you kind of help them with that, because obviously, things change all the time. It's kind of very uncertain. Is it sort of building scenarios for them? What's the sort of the structure in terms of how you help them shape the future?
Yes, well, today more than ever with our leading client organizations, it's a very clear strategic co-creation effort and looking at developing multiple scenarios that can be refreshed. We're also augmenting our scenario development efforts with, artificial intelligence and other analytical tools, which are very powerful. It's developing stakeholder engagement across the organization to ensure that all parties are engaged, informed. I think the leadership efforts in terms of developing multiple scenarios that then can be refreshed and that are inclusive, that allow for, flexibility over time. That's really what we're seeing. And I'll just share with you, Matt, once upon a time, we developed a strategy and it was good for 3 to 5 years. Today, we're developing scenarios and strategies and they're good for 3 months. And sometimes within 30-day windows, we're refreshing those strategies, just given all of the discontinuous and disruptive change that's underway.
Absolutely. It's a time where it's kind of very difficult to do that kind of planning, isn't it? One of the kind of shifts that, I've certainly noticed a huge amount of sort of growing volume of talk about in the last, few months, certainly over the last year, is this whole idea of a human AI hybrid workforce. So, and I think there's been some interesting sort of headlines around how companies have been dealing with that and potentially sort of structuring around it. To talk us through what's going on. How might organizations be structured around this kind of human AI hybrid, and what are the sort of early indicators of that we're seeing of where it might go?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And to give you a bit of historical context, Matt, I began, working with and researching AI 15 to 20 years ago. I was involved in early programs with IBM Watson, cognitive computing. And I think what surprised everyone, including myself, is the November 2022 launch of OpenAI ChatGPT, and then this accelerated volume velocity of AI enablement that has, come to the marketplace at scale. And so for myself and many organizations, even those of us who have been, in the artificial intelligence trenches, so to speak, looking at workforce strategies in terms of how to create the seamless AI human, and I'll use the word liquid quite a bit. I've been involved in liquid workforce strategies for many years, and we used to use the term liquid to mean fluid, adaptive, using contingent workers, fractional workers. But I'll add, digital workers and AI colleagues to the liquid workforce equation. And so with that, the evaluation of operating models, organizational constructs, how to create AI digital talent augmentation pods and capability networks, how to create new decision boundaries as to where does the human, hand off to the AI, how to look at continuous refreshment of these AI human collaborative ecosystems over time, and how to be agile and liquid, both in terms of operating model and org model, and then talent and workforce refreshment at sort of an accelerating rate. And I know that's sort of a lot to comprehend, but that is where we are and where we're going, Matt, in terms of the AI hybrid workforce ecosystems.
And what sort of choices are you seeing companies make already? Because there's obviously been a sort of few stories of companies wanting to sort of sit technology under HR and kind of really sort of shifting things around to do this. Which direction do you see companies going in?
Well, the directions right now, I think, are multifaceted. And I will highlight, Matt, the more progressive client organizations that we're working with. And they certainly are looking at augmented AI hybrid workforce, talent strategies. They're also looking at work redesign, work reimagination, workplace redesign, and looking at distributed leadership models, distributed workforce models, allowing their folks to, if you will, grow and develop within these more complex ecosystems. And they're taking a very human-centric approach, and I'll highlight this further in our conversation, creating an environment of psychological safety and continuous learning with talent and workforce, refreshment capabilities that will allow for the organization to be outcome focused, skills based focused, AI enabled. And here, this is where the CHRO and the CIO and the CEO and business leaders all really need to come together in a pretty seamless, integrated manner to address these new organizational and operating models. And yes, there will be, headcount and workforce reduction, which we're beginning to see across organizations. However, there will be upskilling and new talent demands as organizations will require, new human skilled individuals to orchestrate, manage, lead, provide, wisdom, if you will, to navigate the complexity. So I know that's a little bit of a lengthy answer, but that's what we're seeing with our more advanced clients right now.
Is it possible to kind of anticipate the sort of specific skills and capabilities that are going to be, part of this? Are there any sort of skills that we can spot that are going to be kind of essential sort of 2027 onwards that companies might not be looking closely at the moment?
Yes, Matt, absolutely. And I'll share with you my own personal journey. I've had to reskill myself every 2 to 3 years for the last 20 years. And one of the, if you will, blessings or curses of consulting and being an advisor, that either you're adding value or you're obsolete. And so my own personal career, journey has been one of continuous reinvention. And so from a skills perspective, if I look at my own journey and I look at where, the workforce and where the world is going, the ability to have individuals who have the skills focused upon complexity navigation, multi-contextual thinking, AI algorithmic literacy in terms of both judgment and discernment as to how to use AI most effectively with humans, AI augmentation mastery, AI engineering, cognitive prompt, if you will, engineering, but not necessarily in the prompt, but knowing how to orchestrate AI successfully across large ecosystem teams, including ecosystem partners that may not be part of the organization. And then finally, the skills of continuous adaptive learning, the ability to also reframe our own identities. And so, I began my career, in engineering, I've moved into management consulting, but within the management consulting world, I've had to reframe my identity at least 6 or 7 times. And so I think there needs to be a comfort level with complexity, with identity reimagination, with complex systems orchestration, collaborative leadership, a good dose of humility, and a good dose of saying, I don't know, and I don't know a lot, and I need to work with either people or machines that will help me know and help me learn. And so it's a tremendous learning development gap that exists today that many organizations will need to fulfill from a skills and capabilities perspective. And then I'll just add, Matt, and I'll highlight this later in our conversation, psychological safety and human resilience and well-being will also be really key. And human nurturing, the ability to, Microsoft just released the infinite day research basically across 1 trillion, Microsoft telemetry data points. We're moving into an infinite day where the day never ends. And so in this sort of cognitive overwhelm environment, how do we create pathways and, if you will, nourishing and nurturing digital, physical well-being environments that will help people manage the tremendous cognitive loads and stress loads that are being experienced today and that will most likely increase.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point because I don't think, as you say, we've never been kind of exposed to more information ever in the past before, and it takes that kind of mental toll. And I suppose leading on from that, in terms of leadership, what is it that leaders need to do? How does leadership need to evolve to kind of manage these changing organizations? What are you telling the executives that you work with?
So we're seeing a shift. Leadership historically, Matt, is very command and control, right? And very operationally focused and technically focused. And today, the next generation of leaders need to become the architects of augmentation. They need to recognize how human cognition can be partnered effectively with AI. They need to move beyond operational performance management to learning, orchestration, and a leadership style that may need to be based more upon qualitative outcomes. I would say leaders today, again, need a great deal of comfort with complexity and moving from command and control decision authority to more decision design. And, for instance, looking at how well are my teams and my external partners all collaborating together. Moving from, and we're seeing this across multiple organizations, very structured scenario planning to adaptive experimentation. So, let's try something for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, see how it works. If it doesn't work, let's be willing to change. And from a leadership perspective, as leaders always wanted to be sort of in charge, be all-knowing. And I think, if I look at Satya and Nadella at Microsoft and some of the more servant leader, CEO, profiles, leaders are going to have a good dose of humility, a willingness to learn and nurture, a willingness to sort of rethink their organizational models and their strategies on a continuous basis. And I wrote an article recently on digital twins and the ability for leaders to have perhaps digital twins of themselves that will give them answers of counsel. So, Matt, like if I don't know something and I have a digital twin who's potentially wiser and smarter than I am, and I counsel, and I'm quite serious, it's like a council of elders. Can I go to my digital twin and gain counsel and guidance to manage through complex decisioning?
Yeah, I love the idea that it's a version of yourself that you're going to, because obviously, that makes perfect sense because it kind of sets the whole frame of how you're understanding how you'd think and all that sort of stuff, the sort of digital powered version of you.
Yeah, exactly. A better, smarter, wiser version of me that is also, I think a big word that I use a lot these days, Matt, is symbiotic and symbiosis. So even with that digital twin version of me or you or anyone, can that digital twin version be symbiotic and continuously be uplifted, if you will, and improved upon. And there is a potentially for those digital twin versions of ourselves to become quite powerful because they can access so much more than our human minds can access at any given time. And they can also uplift in terms of their refreshment cycles, potentially much faster than the human brain can uplift and refresh itself or ourselves.
I just want to put something else in here because I think you kind of mentioned this a few times in the conversation. What was the impact on the workplace itself? I mean, how does the workplace evolve if there indeed is a workplace?
Well, it's a great question. And I've been involved in global workplace transformation for over 25 years. I was an early pioneer in hybrid work with companies such as Accenture and Citibank and AT&T and IBM. And I think as we look from 2025 to 2030, 2035, there will need to be space, physical space, and physical environments for people. I'll put it in that context. The question will be how that physical space and workplace envelope will be enabled, utilized, and accessed. And for instance, the physical spaces of tomorrow may not be for work. They may be for nurturing and for wisdom and for contemplative and socialization activities. And all the work will be done by the machines, potentially. And so the physical constructs then become much more humanistic, much more focused on wellness, well-being, nurturing, socialized environments. I mean, what if we thought about going to the office to become emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually refreshed?
Wow, that would be a change.
That concept forward about 15 years ago, and people thought I was absolutely crazy for making such a statement. But as I look today, 15 years ago, and now where we are in 10 years looking forward, it's not so far out if we think about the current exponential rates of change, and that our physical environments and our need for human connection, our need for human socialization, our needs for human, resilience, if you will, and human uplift. I mean, those experiences can occur, and I do believe they can be enabled in the digital constructs. And I feel I often have, Matt, I've never met you in person. I feel I have a connection with you, over this call today, right? However, as we look at, the future of human resiliency and human performance, how can the physical constructs enable better versions of our human selves? And I think that's yet to be defined. And I think the more progressed organizations will probably move in that direction as, again, the machines take on, we could have 80, 90% of the work being performed by machines. So what's remaining for humans is really judgment, discernment, human nurturing, collective social consciousness and connection. And it just creates a very different, networked approach around how we look at the physical digital domains.
Absolutely. And we're sort of talking about 2030 here, which kind of sounds like a long way away, but it really isn't because it's just a few sort of short years. And I'm really interested in what you think companies should be doing right now, especially around things like talent acquisition and development to kind of really sort of push their companies forward towards this new future. I mean, what is it that people should be doing? What are they currently missing?
Yeah, I think, certainly, and you're so right. I mean, we're in 2025, soon to be 2026, and 2030 is really 4 years away. And so as we look at 2030 readiness for a number of our, again, more progressive advanced clients, and as we look at talent, the focus upon skills-based, outcome-based organizational models, cognitive adaptation capabilities, and cognitive adaptation development in terms of how organizations look at their talent and how people think and how they behave, how to focus upon training and human technology expertise that will be pretty much front and center for everyone from the CEO on down. The ability to have AI discernment and ethical decision making from a talent perspective, the ability for leaders, managers to orchestrate, across complex networks, human and AI networks. And then I think there's a stronger focus on creativity and innovation, actually. Whereas here again, as we move towards a more machine-oriented, work platform, if you will, then as humans, we need to really focus on our creative endeavors and our innovation capacities. And so for 2030, whether you're in, digital design or creative design or innovation and beyond traditional R&D, where everyone now has the toolkits available to them to become creators and innovators. And then the other layer to this, Matt, is we could see, and I'll use again, the liquid workforce and the fractional workforce really expand and portfolio careers expand. So for instance, I may have an organization today that's 100,000 full-time equivalent employees. That organization in 2030 may only be 20,000 full-time equivalent employees. It may be double the revenue, and the remainder of that workforce will be fractional, liquid, and portfolio workers that will be orchestrated through AI-enabled liquid workforce management systems. And so I was with the World Economic Forum 2 weeks ago in San Francisco, and one of the BC discussions, one of the senior BC leaders there shared that he has over 50 companies that he's incubating right now that are AI-enabled companies, and none of them will be greater than 20 people, most likely. And they will all scale, revenue based upon 20, maybe 40, 50 people in terms of human, person headcount. But the scaling will be done through AI enablement over time, and revenue generation and value creation will be enabled by AI. And so these are very, the other challenge that I have, I think we all have, 2030 is 4 years away, but what happens in the next 4 years will be of greater accelerated change than what's happened potentially in the last 20 years or 30 years. And so it's so difficult, even for me, and I tend to look out a lot, but to imagine, some of these very dramatic accelerated changes happening at scale. And then, navigating, all of that change in hopefully a cogent and, constructive manner.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on this a little bit already, but I think just as a sort of a final question to you, what would your advice be to everyone listening as individuals? Like, 'cause I know that this, some people find this terrifying. Some people, are kind of not quite sure what their path forward is. How can people make sure that they're sort of personally ready for this kind of emerging world of work?
Yeah, such a great question. And again, I'll focus on 6 qualities that I would advise, and they're all under the umbrella, Matt, of human and personal resilience and human and personal readiness. So I think everyone will need to develop an AI adaptive mindset and an AI symbiotic augmentation mindset, number 1. Number 2, we need to exercise and enhance our cognitive capabilities to manage complexity and to be comfortable with complexity. Item 3 would be we need to enhance our human advantage and our human identity, and to be willing to reimagine that human advantage and identity on an ongoing basis. We need to build personal learning systems and have continuous learning. These days, Matt, I feel I'm learning probably 30 to 40% of every day. And so continuous learning is key. 5th would be social relationships and social connections. So I need to know of smart folks like Matt in the world that I need to connect with on a regular basis, both for learning and human nurturing and, if you will, human connectivity. And then I guess, finally would be to be willing to embrace complexity and to take a leadership role. And in that leadership role, personal resilience to be able to help others along the journey. I think the issues of loneliness and anxiety today, and, anxiety, loneliness, sadness, and depression are at all-time highs. I think as leaders, we'll need to have a much stronger human nurturing capacity to help ourselves. I mean, I meditate every day for 30 minutes. That's certainly helpful. I think all the physical, emotional, well-being interventions that we can all muster together and then reinforce with one another, Matt, will really be, key to navigating this brave new world of work and brave new world of life that we'll be experiencing.
Peter, thank you very much for talking to me.
My pleasure. So great being with you.
My thanks to Peter. You can follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can search all the past episodes at recruitingfuture.com. On that site, you can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter, Recruiting Future Feast, and get the inside track on everything that's coming up on the show. Thanks very much for listening. I'll be back next time, and I hope you'll join me.
This is my show.